Hey, welcome back traders for another backtesting session. So yesterday, Sunday, I did do my first live stream. It was pretty good, although the video quality was a little bit low, so I adjusted the settings in my OBS. So hopefully, I'm going to try and do another live stream Sunday. I'm going to make it 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So 9:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sunday. I'm going to be live streaming once again, but I've adjusted my settings in OBS, so hopefully the video quality will be a bit better. But let's go ahead and take a look at the charts right now. This is NASDAQ on the daily chart. You can see that we've took the buy side up here, and then we've went down below this SIBI and also this BISI. So what I'm thinking is that we may be going for some sell side after taking the buy side here. We do have relative equal lows, so could be aiming for that. If we start going down below this fair value gap, using it as inversion, we could be going for this low or this low as well. Remember, we do have that daily void that was never filled in, so could be going down there. But right now, I'm just going to concern myself with these relative equal lows. Now, going to March 11th, this is going to be the Monday. It is 9:16, and looking at the hourly chart, we do have relative highs up here, so this is going to be a draw on liquidity that I'm looking at on the buy side. We went down into this humongous gap right here over the this is a new week opening gap on the hourly chart, so we could be looking for a setup and aiming for these relative highs. Are we going to take this high? Not sure. We could keep going higher, but we may just sweep these highs and then start heading lower. But I think either way, these highs do look like it's going to get taken. So going down to the 5-minute, we can see that we've swept the sell side below these relative lows once. Then we came down and took these sell side as well. And if we get a setup, then we could be aiming for these relative highs right here. So currently right now it is 9:16. We did create kind of relative equal lows, although this low right here did sweep the sell side here, and then right after we created fair value gap and we potentially create another fair value gap going above this candle as well. So I'm not going to take this, but if we come down and we get confirmation on one of these fair value gaps, I can take a long looking for those relative highs. But there is a potential that we come and sweep these one more time because these are relatively equal as well. So I'm going to wait to see what 9 o'clock does, and maybe we can get a setup by 10 o'clock. And as you can see, 9:30, we did drop down below these lows one more time. So this is another sweep of the sell side. Now I want to see displacement to the upside. I want to see a fair value gap get built in. And if we get above these highs, there's going to be a change in the market structure because we did have a pretty significant drop here. So no fair value gap, at least on the 5-minute. Maybe there was something on the 1-minute, but 5-minute is what I'm going to execute on. So following the model, I'm not going to be dropping down to the 1-minute, but we did take out this high. So there is a change in the market structure. One down candle, one up candle. This is a balanced price range. So I'm looking for some kind of fair value gap to enter for these highs up here. I will take the first fair value gap I see. Okay, a little bit after 10 o'clock, we drop down one more time for these lows. So even though this was a balanced price range, it did go down below it. Are we going to head lower today? That is a potential as well. So I want to see if this small little fair value gap is going to hold up. Now I want to see another market structure shift after this big drop. Otherwise, I'm kind of thinking we may be going to the downside. Here we are at 10:30. It's important to remain patient. Price did consolidate for a while. Like I think for 30 minutes or so, there was really nothing to do except for just wait. Now we have a displacement to the upside. Are we going to retain this fair value gap or not? And if we do, am I going to take the trade? Well, let's take a look at the risk here. If let's suppose this fair value gap remain intact, I'm going to take my entry somewhere around 217 with the risk being at 150. So that is a really big range, 67 points or so. So no, I'm not going to be taking this one. Instead, what I want to see is confirmation. So I want to see price come back into this fair value gap and see this fair value gap respected. And if we create another fair value gap, I'll take the very next one. Okay, so afterwards you can see that we did not create a fair value gap. We just had a big down candle here, basically closing in the gap, potentially an immediate rebalance, but you know, I'm not really going into that technique. I'm just looking for fair value gaps, but you can see this closed in completely, no fair value gaps. So just going to continue to wait. All right, so we finally got another displacement to the upside, and this time going above this high we created in market structure shift. So I think I can go ahead and take this fair value gap should it remain intact, with the risk being down here at 195. And suppose we close the fair value gap here. Still pretty big range. I want it to come down some. I'm going to wait till this candle is done forming. Just going to go ahead 5 minutes to 11:01. And we did create a fair value gap, so I'm going to go ahead and take a shot here. Now the risk is pretty big, from 242 to 195, so that is going to be what, 50, close to 50 points, 47 or something like that. But anyways, that's only going to allow me to take one contract, so I'm going to take one contract and I'm going to aim for these relative highs. That's going to give me a little bit better than 101. I think close to 1.5 to 1 reward to risk. Now I'm not liking this drop, but it hasn't invalidated the setup. But with this big range, like what you could have done was waited for like maybe 50% of this fair value gap to get traded into before you enter it. Or this right here, the order block, you could either enter at the high of the order block and have your risk at the low of this order block. But I went ahead and just took the fair value gap that was according to my model. So we'll see if this plays out or if it stops me out. And right here we got stopped out, so gonna take a loss on the day, but we do have one more shot. Now we did come back down into this order block. I don't see any bodies closing below the mean threshold of the order block just yet, but if we start rejecting it and we start going up with another fair value gap, I can go ahead and take one more shot for those relative highs. Okay, so 11:30, price is continuing to drop. Now I'm thinking that we may not get a chance anymore because it is 11:30. It's getting kind of close to the end of my window, and we may be going for this low one more time. So I'm going to just see how the morning plays out, but I'm anticipating no more trades for the rest of this morning. Okay, so we did create one more fair value gap and we dropped down into it. We could get confirmation here and enter into a long for those relative highs, but as you can see, it is 12:11. Pretty much done for the day on my window of my time window. So I'm not going to be taking a trade, but we'll see at the end of the day if this would have worked out. It could be something like over lunch it goes for a liquidity, but yeah, it's not going to be within my time window. Here we are at 5 o'clock, and as you can see, this fair value gap, well, although it did hold, price didn't really do anything. It just pretty much went sideways for the rest of the day. It did take out this high by a little bit, but remember our target was those relative highs. We would have entered and just held it all day without price doing much of anything. So I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next day. All right, Tuesday and 8 o'clock, we did take out those relative highs overnight right here. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. Now the buy side is going to be up here, but as you can see on the 1 hour, we did have a displacement. So I want to keep an eye on this 1 hour fair value gap to see if it's going to hold up. If it does, we could be aiming once again for the sell side. Now looking at the downside, we do have this 1 hour gap right here. This is going to be the new day opening gap. So if we do hold up here bearish and go down, we could be looking for this gap right here to get filled in, and I want to see how it behaves. If price is going to go down below it and use it as resistance, then we can aim for further targets down lower like this, namely this low. But we're going to have to see how price reacts if it comes back down to this new day opening gap. So on the 15-minute, you can see that we do have these smooth lows down here. I think price is going to go and head for these smooth lows, but I want to see how price behaves after it take out these lows. Is it going to start shifting up higher and creating a displacement higher, or are we still going to go down for that volume balance? All right, so there was some news here at 8:30. We dropped down, but took out these sell side right here, went through the volume imbalance, and this is the new day opening gap, and then we went back into that daily SIBI. Remember, that was a balanced price range, but now I'm going to just be a little bit patient, see what price does as we go to 9:30. Soon after 8:30, we actually did not get a down close candle on the 5-minute. Instead, it did close up, and we've rallied up above the buy side as well. So this kind of leads me to think that we are still going to be bullish. We did drop down into this balanced price range one last time, and now we are displacing up higher. So let's go ahead and go to the 1 hour. Take a look at what we can see on the higher time frame. I'm guessing we're going to go for the buy side above this high. Take this off. That was a old high that we well, I mean, you can still keep it there, but I think if we are going to go higher, we're going to go for this swing high. And then we do have a projected target, so we could start heading for that as well. This gap may be holding up as support, and I'm just going to wait a little bit longer, see what 9:30 is going to give us. Okay, so here at 9:30, we did drop back down into this wick. Got my eye on 50% of that wick, which is also going to be like this new day opening gap. And at 9:30, we can see that we did start going back up above this. I think it was a 1 hour. Yeah, this was a 1 hour SIBI. So we have a potential fair value gap. We gotta wait for this candle to close, but potentially we have a fair value gap here. Are we going to get confirmation? If we get confirmation, I'll go ahead and take it. Otherwise, I think what 272 to, I mean, it is a pretty small risk, but you can see that we went back up into this SIBI. So it could just be coming back up to rebalance the SIBI a little bit and then start heading lower. So I want to wait for confirmation here before I enter long. In fact, we did, after going back into the SIBI, we did go much lower back into a daily fair value gap, the balanced price range. Now I said I'm looking at 50% of this wick. This was a pretty gnarly wick. So we did go through it and close below it. Now, are we going to use this as resistance now to head even lower? Definitely can do that. If we start getting, you know, back up to this SIBI and start getting confirmation to the downside without taking out this low, I could enter a short, aiming for this low, perhaps aiming for 50% of this fair value gap or even the low of that fair value gap. And we did take out this low before giving us any confirmation. So right now it's just going to be another waiting game. Are we going to be continue to the downside, or is this just coming down to sweep the sell side before we head up for those relative highs? Remember, those relative highs have not, or sorry, not relative highs, before we head up to take out this high, all-time high. Okay, I'm stepping through this day quite a bit because there's a lot going on, but after taking out those lows, we did get a nice displacement to the upside, and we closed above or close to the high of this SIBI. So if we are going to go back above this this down candle here, there's going to be a change in the state of delivery once again, and then once again I could be looking for the upside. But of course, with a big range like this, I want to see it come down, rebalance some, and give me a confirmation fair value gap to enter in on. Okay, so 10:30, it's not giving, it didn't come back down to give me a confirmation fair value gap, although it did create another one here and displaced even higher. I guess I could potentially enter into this one now that I've seen a big sweep of the liquidity on down below. We have a market structure shift right here. We've traded above all these down candles. It does not look like these bearish PD arrays are getting respected. The bullish PD arrays aren't even getting traded back into. So it's kind of showing me that price is very, very strong. So with the risk down here at 293, I'm going to put an entry here at 348. That's going to be about, oh man, this is actually a pretty big risk. I'm not even sure I can take one contract. This may go over my 1% risk. Let me go ahead and check. So as you can see, if I take one contract at 348 going long with my risk down here at 293, it actually gives me pretty much 1% risk with one contract. So I'm gonna go ahead and take a shot with just one contract on this one, and let's see if we can aim for this high right here. That's gonna give me better than a 1-to-1. Here we are at 1050. Our target did get hit. This was the all-time high. However, it did not pull back for our entry, so gonna go ahead and cancel the trade because our target got hit before we even got a chance. So today was very, very bullish after taking out the sell side down here. Can we go higher? I believe we can, but I'm thinking today no more trades for today. Our target has been reached. Now it could come back, pull back here, and give us a confirmation to go higher for our projected target. But I don't know, we may just pull back and consolidate for the rest of the day. I'm thinking maybe we have to wait for tomorrow. 12:15, this is the end of my time window. As you can see, we did go up higher one more time before just pretty much consolidating at the top right here. And let's go ahead and check out the day's action, and then we'll move on to the next day. So price did retrace back into these inefficiencies before in the afternoon we displaced higher. There's a potential fair value gap here for our entry, kept going higher, taking out the high of the day, and we just consolidated near the highs. So kind of does look like it wants to go away from this balanced price range to the upside. So we can aim for this projected target going into the next day. You know, all-time high is really tricky to trade. You don't really have any targets to aim for, but we can try and aim for this projected target. Wednesday, March 13th, 8 o'clock in the morning, you can see that we rallied higher above this high from yesterday. And on the 1 hour, we have this fair value gap. Now I put it in blue because I do have other fair value gaps. So just not to get confused, this blue fair value gap, because we had traded into this fair value gap and we displaced away from it, I do not want to see this fair value gap get completely closed in. It could come down to 50% of this fair value gap. That's perfectly fine. We do have a low right here. I do expect a sweep of this sell side, but I don't really want to see price trading through this fair value gap. And then after taking the sell side here, I want to see some sort of a setup and or displacement on the 5-minute for this high, and then we try and see if we can hold for the projected target. I would like to get more than one contract, that way we can hold, but that's all going to depend on the risk that the price gives us. Okay, so here we go, 8:30, we went back down into that 1 hour fair value gap. Now I don't like how it's already going to the lows of that fair value gap. I wish it would just stay in the upper half, but it could still be okay. It could be going for the order block, but I'm waiting here to see some sort of a setup for longs. I'm not looking for any shorts at this moment. All right, 9:30, price did come back up and then it went back down below that 1 hour fair value gap. I'm not really liking it, but if going back to the 1 hour, you can see that we could still be going back into this order block. Just gonna go ahead and mark out the mean threshold right here, this order block. This is what I'm talking about. So as long as we don't close below it on an hourly basis, I think we should be okay. Now 9:30, we did get another sweep of the sell side. Now I'm looking for price to either come back above this high for a shift in the market structure, or if we can get like a fair value gap and then we get confirmation on the confirmation fair value gap, I'll take that as well. Hopefully I can get enough contract. I'm going to be aiming for this pre-market high. This is I believe this is the all-time high, and then see if it can hold for, well, it's quite a ways away for that projected target. That's probably not going to be, you know, reasonable. So I think the best thing to do is just to aim for this high as the first partial, maybe the second partial here, and then we'll see how high we can hold the third partial. Here we are at 10 o'clock, and we did close below this mean threshold on an hourly basis because it is 10 o'clock, so I'm not really hopeful for any longs. Let's zoom out a little bit onto the 15-minute chart, seeing that, okay, we did take out the sell side down here, and I'm going to remove this. I'm thinking this may not be relevant. I mean, it kind of looks like it was used as inversion, so I'm going to get rid of this as well. But we took out the sell side below here. I'm just going to mark it just to keep in mind that we had the sell side sweep. And I don't know, I'm not really hopeful for any longs at this point. I think not even for shorts really, because I'm not seeing any short targets that we can aim for. I mean, this low, but I feel like that's still a long ways away. I think right now we're just going to stay neutral, just wait, see if all these inefficiencies are going to get respected to the downside, or are we going to start breaking to the upside. That will be the situation where I would want to go long once more. Short wise though, I'm not really hopeful for anything to the downside. All right, 2:15, you know, you can see price is pretty much just consolidated here at the lows. there was not really anything to do for the rest of the day. It seems like this week has been pretty quiet, not doing much. I mean, we'll get one big move, but didn't really offer us the opportunity to get in or anything. And if you look at the week, this is going to be the third Friday of the month, so the March contract will be expiring, so that could also play into the fact that we have been kind of lackluster on the price action. So let's go ahead and move on to the next day. But well, first let's take a look at the end of the day action, but we'll move on to the next day. I'm thinking that this whole week we may not get many opportunities, and as you can see, today was pretty nasty. After lunch we rallied up above this morning high, but pretty much just dropped back down and consolidated at this range once again. Not a lot to do. You know, this is not a good looking price action. Thursday, March 14th. Now looking at the market before 8:30, we can see that we did take out the buy side above this high already, so marking that out. We could be heading for the sell side. We did take out the sell side liquidity yesterday, but we did create relative equal lows, so the sell side is down here, so we could be coming back for the sell side there, and we may even aim for 50% of this wick. You can see a pretty large lower wick on the 1 hour. 50% of that lines up with that daily balanced price range, so we could be coming back into there. I think if we take a scalp, we could scalp it short, aiming for these lows pretty much. I don't expect us to go, you know, really deep down. Now for the bullish ideas, I think we still have to take out these lows first and then create a setup for the highs. So I think going in, if we do get a setup for a short, we could take it aiming for these lows. So 8:30, after we took out the highs up here, we did create a few bearish fair value gap. This one was respected, but this one was not. This one was respected. At 8:30, we dropped down much lower, taking out the sell side below these lows. Now, what I want to see is price come back up into this, well, potential fair value gap and give me a confirmation. If I can get a confirmation fair value gap, I can aim for those relative lows. But I'm going to go ahead and see what it looks like. We may even go to 9:30. So 9:30, we kind of just consolidated here for a little bit. We did drop down lower to take the sell side one more time. And then at 9:30, we had this big indecisive candle wicking up and down. But as you can see over here, there was no fair value gap whatsoever. So there was no entries, just gonna keep on waiting. So, okay, we definitely missed an opportunity here. Not really. I mean, not on the 5 minute. I mean, on the 1 minute, maybe there was an opportunity, but price did come back up for the buy side up here, but did not really invalidate this fair value gap. And there was a big move that, like, real quick there must be like some news at 9:45 or something, and just went down to take out those relative equal lows, went back to the daily balanced price range. So higher time frame idea was correct. However, there was just no entry on the lower time frame, at least not on the 5 minute, maybe on the 1 minute, but of course gotta follow the model. Not gonna go anything lower than 5 minutes. So going to take a look at the rest of the morning action, but again, unfortunately, I think maybe is a no trade day once again. So here we have 12:30. My window of opportunity is done. We did come back up into this big drop, consolidated. There was a fair value gap here, so you could have tried taking a short, but I was waiting to see confirmation. I didn't like how we've consolidated so much. And afterwards, we still consolidated before giving us a drop. So this would be like a fair value gap that I would take. Trying to go below, well, maybe this low, but you can see the body of the candle was up here. So maybe take the first partial below here. If that's going to give you 1-1, it looks like it's not. If you have your risk up here, your entry down here, that's a pretty big range. You may have to aim for this low in order to get a 1-1, but I'm not taking it because it's 12:15. Time window is closed. So gonna go ahead and go to Friday. It's gonna be the last day, and I don't expect much because it is like changing over to the next contract. So Friday morning, taking stock on the week, nothing much has changed. I mean, we started here Monday, we dropped down into this daily balanced price range, went up on Tuesday, create the high of the week and then pretty much just consolidate it in the range of Monday's low and Tuesday's high, and we're still here. So if you think of this as a power 3 with price coming up, we could, I guess, take out Monday's low. That would be the low of the week. We do have a low here and a low here. There's relative equal lows, but there is a rally up for the time being. We could be short-term bullish, aiming for this high potentially. Just gonna wait. I mean, Friday, contracts changing today. I don't expect much, but we'll see if we get a setup of the short term. Just before 8:30, looking at the 15-minute, I do see relative highs for the buy side, and then we can aim for this low. Remember, there is another, if you look to the left, there is another low, so relative equal lows, but I think another low below here. So this will be the buy side, and this will be the sell side that I will be aiming for today if there's any scalp. And then we can also count this low as well. So I'm going to put a line here just to look at this as a maybe first partial potentially. If we take out the buy side first, and then we have a shift to the downside, could be looking for the sell side below here. Now, just before 9:30, we dropped down, took out these relative equal lows, and we're aiming for that single low. I'm gonna go ahead and take this off. So if you look at the price action here, there was not really an opportunity. I mean, yeah, you probably enter on this fair value gap, but who knows, it could go back up for this fair value gap. So I was waiting for confirmation, but as I was waiting, there wasn't anything until we get this drop down here. There was a fair value gap right here, but there was no retracement back up to take it. I should have stopped the video to say that, but no, I just kind of clicked through a little too quickly because it was getting kind of close to 9:30. I'm expecting 9:30 to come out and take the sell side here, and then we'll see if we can get a reversal looking for those relative highs. So I'm thinking I'm going to be flipping over to longs, but I want to see a sweep of this low. I mean, it's so close. It's just a shame if it doesn't take the sell side down here. And then I want to see a change in state delivery, maybe go above this high, some sort of setup for a long. It is 10:15 now. Zooming out to the 1 hour once again. Remember, we had Monday here creating the low, and Tuesday was the high. So today, Friday, we did come back down, taking out Monday's low. So I know I said I was looking for longs, but now that we've gone below this daily fair value gap, remember it was also a balanced price range right here in brown. I'm looking for price to actually come down to take the low here. We did get close to it. Now, if we could get some sort of a retracement and a short setup somewhere in this balanced price range, perhaps, then I'll be looking to take a short below these lows. If we start going back above this daily fair value gap and creating a setup somewhere above it, then I'll be looking for these highs. But I think overall on the higher time frame, at least looking at the week, you know, we went up and now we are going down. I think we may finish down on this week, so I'm looking for this low to get taken. My time window is done, 12:30. Now you can see that we did go back up into that daily fair value gap. I was wanting to see price come up to the civvies on the 5-minute back into the balanced price range. It didn't do that, but it did stay in the lower half of this daily fair value gap. So at least the higher time frame idea was there. But as you can see, coming down, it's pretty much a slow grind. There was a small fair value gap, never really got into it, so there was no entry. Although even with this, I want to see confirmation because I could see price going above this high back into a, you know, imbalance. But as you can see, we just grinded lower, no fair value gaps whatsoever. So pretty much a nothing burger once again. I think this whole week was pretty much a nothing burger. We only had one trade on the 11th, and that was a loss. So unfortunately, that was not that great. But taking a look at the spreadsheet real quick before we end this video. So an easy way you can go ahead and look at your monthly stats is just to create an extra tab, and then you can just copy paste the data. Now have a template, right? That way you have all your columns written out, but then copy it to, like, let's say a January month, and then you just copy all your January data and you paste in here. So in January, you can see that we had a 50% strike rate. Our average was plus $34, so that was pretty good. Although you may want to have a percentage. Now, February was a little bit better. We have a 72% strike rate, and 83 was our expected value. So that was much better. Now, looking at the data overall, currently the strike rate is above 50%, 57. We are positive, and we remember we started off with $10,000 on this test account, and then we are currently at 11,200, so made a little bit more than 10% so far. But remember, it's only March. We still have like 10 months to go, so quite a ways away, but so far it's looking pretty good, looking pretty promising for this strategy. So that's exactly what you want to do when you're backtesting. You want to make sure you keep all your stats, maybe check month to month, week to week, however you want to do it, but don't get too bogged down with the current data, because you want to see how it will affect your trading throughout the whole entirety of the year. But anyways, thank you so much for joining me once again for another backtesting session. Make sure to like this video, subscribe if you haven't done so, and come back again as we backtest the rest of March. But until I see you guys next time, safe trading.